Hello, and welcome. Have you ever stopped to wonder how everything began? For thousands of years, people have tried to answer one of humanity's biggest questions. Was the universe born from the Big Bang? Was it created by God in 6 days? Or is the answer more complicated than either of those ideas? In this video, we're looking beyond the simple question of what Genesis says and asking how it says it. We'll explore the original Hebrew, surprising translation debates, and why a single word can completely change the way that we understand the creation story. Along the way, we'll also see how writers and artists have imagined God at the very beginning of everything. Now, if I asked you to imagine the beginning of, well, everything, what would you come up with? The Big Bang? God creating the universe? God coming into existence? So how did it all start? Did something explode a few billion years ago? 13 billion to be exact? Or was the world and the universe created in a mere 16 days? When talking about Genesis, it is stated that God created it all. However, in many different translations, we have varying ways on how it's written. For example, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, from King James Version. First this, God created the heavens and the earth, all you see, all you don't see, from the Message, and from the Jewish Publication Society, when God began to create the heaven and earth. While there is not a big difference between these versions, and there is a slight variation, many things can be changed due to some translations. It is due to this that some things can be lost, meaning original context, theology, and authority. Biblical scholar Ellen Van Wolde made news headlines in 2009 when she challenged the original Hebrew version of the Bible against its English translations, stating that this Hebrew word means separated, as opposed to it meaning created. Another translation states, when God began to separate the sky from the land, the earth was shapeless and empty, and there was darkness on the surface of the primordial oceans, and a great wind was brooding on the surface of the water. Then God said, there should be light, and it became light. Is this a reasonable translation? Does this still hold the traditional Christian theological beliefs? Does it matter so much for translation and different versions change slight things if they still get the original text across? Strictly talking about the text, God creates and shapes the earth through words. This contrasts many Eastern creation myths, such as the Norse, in that the earth was created by body parts of other dead divine beings like Ymir. God uses language and speaks Hebrew. God said, and there was light. Everything has its own place. God sees chaos and creates order. Put simply, God says, let there be X, and there was X, and God saw that it was good. And there was the evening, and there was the morning, the day. It was through these statements and features of the text that may indicate that Genesis 1 was written within the 6th century BCE, specifically during the Babylonian exile, which was a time of sheer chaos. Whatever led up to the writing of Genesis, and despite the difficulties in trying to translate it, for centuries it has been seen as a sacred text, and thus it has many different representations. So how have authors, artists, and even atheists interpreted God during creation? John Milton, the author of Paradise Lost, originally published in 1667, and a Protestant, states this: then stayed the fervid wheels, and in his hand he took the golden compasses, prepared in God's eternal store to circumscribe this universe and all created things. One foot he centred, the other he turned round through the vast profundity, obscure, and said, thus far extend, thus far thy bounds, this be thy just circumference, O world. Thus God the heaven created, thus the earth. In Milton's writing, God isn't just using words, but also tools and his whole body to create the universe. The Ancient of Days, painted by Blake in 1794, shown here, Blake calls this man Urizen instead of God. Is this important? Are they the same person, or does this imply the earth has multiple creators? Whatever the case is, the interpretations of the creation story is always interesting. and will likely continue to change as we get further and further away from the original time when it was written. And I'd also be interested to hear your opinions on the subject, and in the next video, we'll be discussing the life in Eden. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Just remember, this whole universe, and you're one tiny little speck in this image right here. That's all for me. Goodbye, guys.